Hello, everyone. Today, I want to take some time to talk about something that's been on my heart and mind for a while, and something I've learned some very valuable lessons with recently, and that is pride. And I'll start by reading several scriptures, which the Bible has countless scriptures which address pride and humility directly, but I picked out a few key ones, and then I want to talk about how pride affects us as people, and then I want to share a few personal experiences that I've had with pride and the lessons that I was able to learn recently, and I'm still learning each and every day. But I'll start with some scriptures here, and I'll start with Proverbs 8:13. To fear the Lord is to hate evil. I hate pride and arrogance, evil behavior, and perverse speech. Proverbs 11:2 says, when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Proverbs 16:5, the Lord detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this, they will not go unpunished. Proverbs 16:18, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Psalm 10:4 says, in his pride the wicked man does not seek him. In all his thoughts there is no room for God. Galatians 6:4, each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. Isaiah 2:12, the Lord Almighty has a day in store for all the proud and lofty, for all that is exalted, and they will be humbled. James 4:6, but he gives us more grace. That is what Scripture says. God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. Romans 12:16, live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. 1 John 2:16, for all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and the pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world. There's no room in the kingdom of heaven for pride. There's no room in a Christian walk for pride, although we do see it from time to time in various ways. It always does come before the fall. One of the chief sins, one of the very 7 deadly sins, is pride itself. Satan was removed from heaven due to his pride. He thought he was more glorious than God and thought that he should be sitting on the throne of heaven and ruler of the earth, and he was cast down. So pride came before his fall, and it comes before all of our falls too. Pride also leads to shame and disgrace, as the verses said there, and it doesn't seem like it at the time. Everything seems so glorious. You're better than everyone else, or you're the best at something, and if you really take that to heart and take that in your mind, it'll absolutely consume you. Some things that I've noticed that pride leads to in the human life is stress, anger, shame. It corrupts motives. It steals joy. It drives us from apologizing and relationship building, and it drives us from seeking the Lord. And all the scriptures that I just read confirm that 100%. So I'll kind of go down the list here of the things and how it affects people, and, relate that to some experiences that I've had. And some of you have probably had similar experiences that are of this fashion, or somebody that's dealt with this, or you've seen examples of it. But the first one I'll start with is stress. So in some previous positions I had working, I had a very, very prideful spirit. I wanted to be the absolute best in the company. I wanted to be, held in high regard. I wanted people to sing my praises. I wanted to look the best to all my customers, to all employees that work for me and everything else. And because that was my motive, that led to a lot of stress and anxiety in my life behind the scenes, because that pressure to be the best and that living up to that and everything else, it caused me to, overlook the little things in life that are really good, caused me to spend unnecessary amounts of time away from my family. So, I neglected them in a sense. Sure, I provided for them and things, but that can't be the number one motive, because there's more to provide than monetary things. And you've got to provide love, you have to provide support, you have to provide leadership. And through my pride of wanting to be the absolute best at something and really stroke my own ego, and to feel good about myself, it actually caused me to feel worse. It caused a lot of undue stress in my life. And I could go on and do a whole separate video about that, and I probably will one day. Anger. If you're very prideful and that's your motive and that's what you seek to feed, when things don't work out and you're not able to satisfy that pride and really feel in that top spot, that can lead us to anger, a lot of toxic anger. I know behind the scenes, if I failed at something or I didn't do good or measure up to what I thought that I should be, to where my pride said I should be or what I should be doing, I become very angry at a toxic level. I didn't harm any person, but I harmed myself. I tore things up through fits, and just carrying that mood around of anger and things like that, bringing that home, that can't be good for a family. It's not good at all. And people can tell that, and I've been the type of person, I'm not really good at faking emotions. So if I'm aggravated or upset or stressed out, I don't really hide it, because I don't really fake emotions. So that would be around, my family could be wanting to have an innocent good time, and something went wrong at work or something went wrong competitively or within a hobby or anything like that. And I brought home a very angry mood, which brought everybody down, and could ruin everybody's evening. And the root of all of that was pride, 100%. Shame. If you really talk yourself up, whether you do that boastfully, publicly, or even if you do it just internally with your own ego and things, when things don't work out, it leads to a lot of shame, because you value your pride so much. And then with that shame can come depression. That's absolutely something that happened with me. And if you watch my first video and testimony, that depression really led me down a very dark road and could have had some very, very grave consequences for myself. And I'm very lucky, and I thank the Lord every day for his grace, his mercy, and his salvation in saving me and helping me out with that. It corrupts your motives. You could be participating in an amateur competition. You could be going hunting or fishing. You could be even at work, really with anything. If you carry negative and overt pride with yourself, that corrupts your motives for participating in something. When something could be a fun activity, or something could just be, a job providing for your family, or something's just an average everyday thing, when you carry negative and toxic levels of pride as your motive, and your motive isn't to have a good time or to do your best, but your motive is to outdo people and to look better than others, to be better than others, that those are not good motives, because that's like a big nasty tree trunk that has a lot of disgusting branches that come off of it when pride's that main motive. It steals joy. That kind of goes back to what I talked about with stress and anger and shame. All three of those things could definitely be considered opposites or antonyms of pride, or antonyms of joy, excuse me. So when pride is the root cause of that, it absolutely steals your joy when things don't work out that way. Or when you do accomplish something, some people have such an insane level of pride that it's not enough. I've been in that position too, where I may have done well at something and should have been happy with that, or grateful for what I got and where I was at, but it wasn't enough. So I had no joy there at all. Another big one, it can drive us from apologizing. You know, if we're in the wrong about something, or with a friend, a family member, a coworker, a customer, anybody around, there are times where we have to be humble, and we have to recognize our faults, and we have to apologize to someone in order to keep a relationship going, or simply to be a good and decent moral person and a good Christian. And if we're very prideful, that could prevent us from apologizing, or also from forgiving people. And one of the devotions that I posted a few weeks ago, which I'll get back to those on this page as well, I talked about forgiveness and how to forgive other people. And if we're overwhelmed with pride, that can cause us not to forgive other people. And when we don't forgive others, we ourselves can't be forgiven by Christ. And if we're not forgiven by Christ, that's going to block us in prayer. That's going to block us from the kingdom of heaven. And that's going to block us from experiencing all the great and wonderful fruits of the Spirit that the Lord has prepared for us, as well as many other things. I could go on and on about that one, but it can drastically affect relationships. How many times with our wives or husbands, we know that there's a problem. We know we've had an argument. We know there's tension in the air and things like that, but we carry it on much further rather than dealing with it and forgiving each other and rectifying the situation. What prevents us from getting to that point of rectifying it is hanging on to pride. And then lastly, it drives us from seeking the Lord. I've seen this, I've felt this way and stuff. If in the past, if I had been wrong about something, or just needed to go and pray, pride often prevented me from praying. Pride convinced me that what I may have did or what I may have said wasn't wrong, that I didn't need to apologize for that. Or pride can also prevent someone from engaging in praise and worship at church. It can prevent us from wanting to have our ears open to listening to a message. It can prevent us from wanting to sit down and read the Word, spending quality time in prayer in so many different ways, because that's not of the Lord. When we're engaging in that and feeding that, it ultimately will prevent us from seeking the Lord and create great separation. Then I want to talk about some personal experiences recently that I've had with pride, and some valuable lessons that I've learned that I would like to share with all of you, and hopefully these are valuable and help provide some insight. So as many of you know, one thing I used to really enjoy and really like doing was competitive archery, as well as bow hunting too. And, my motives in competitive archery ended up becoming corrupted. And it was for pride's sake. You know, I wanted to so badly to outdo other individuals. That's what made me feel good about myself. I wanted to have the highest scores possible, and really wanted to make others look bad and have myself look good. Well, that pride definitely come before my fall, for sure. Um, there was one competition I was shooting in earlier this summer, and I had never done this before, but this is where pride gets you. This is where it gets you. I had a misfire, and I had shot a 0, and I thought that was so beneath me. I thought that, oh, there is no way that I could do that. There's no way possible. That's so beneath me. And so then I was so prideful about that that it led to anger, it led to shame, and it ultimately led to me packing my stuff up and just leaving and not even finishing the competition. So then it led to disgrace, because I think it could be universally agreeable that that was a shameful act. That was a shameful thing to just think that that's so beneath you that you don't even deserve to compete, that since you did that, so you just pack your stuff up and leave. Where, you know, a good humble person would have finished it out and been a graceful, good, I don't want to say the term good loser, but, you know, a graceful recipient, you know, just somebody that, yep, I'm human, and I made a mistake, and, you know, I didn't have my best today, and go on, but that wasn't good enough for me because I was so prideful about stuff. Also an experience at work a while back, before I got saved. I was, you know, in the middle of the night, you know, on my hands and knees, scrubbing a toilet, and, you know, working my best at it. But I just was overcome with pride, not about the job I was doing, but I was sick and upset. Like, there are people right now who are not good at their jobs. This is what I was thinking anyway. They're not good at their jobs, or they don't deserve certain things they have, and everything else, making 2, 3, 4 times the amount of money I am, sitting at home right now, chilling, drinking a beer, or just doing whatever they do, nice and comfortable. And here I am, you know, for much lower wages, on my hands and knees scrubbing a toilet. And that pride in comparing myself to another, which was in the first verse, that, or not the first verse, but the, I think, 4th or 5th verse, Galatians 6:4, where it talks about comparing yourself to someone else. I was just comparing myself to other people. And then all that did was just make me incredibly angry. Like, to a point that, you know, once I finished up work for the evening and stuff, I took that anger home with me. I carried it on throughout that whole weekend. And then 2 days later, I had that archery shoot where I shot that 0. So pride was at the root of all that, which was a very bad weekend for myself. So after that weekend, the following day, after that happened to me on the archery course, I was overcome with anger, overcome with depression, overcome with pride not working out. And it just, then the suicidal thoughts come back, the worthlessness come back, and everything else, the disgrace, right? The shame, being down in the pit. And that's when I did turn to Jesus. I didn't know where else to go. I didn't know what else to do. So that very next morning when I woke up, that's exactly who I turned to, and my life has done a complete 180. But I just really felt the need to share that experience, those 2 experiences in regards to pride. And now here's a little more of a cheerful one, although it is a little bleak. So I get saved. I start reading the Word. I change my life around completely with the help of Christ, 100%. I owe all the credit to Him. But I changed my life, and a couple weeks later, I had already signed up for another archery tournament weeks later and things. And I was like, well, I'd already paid the money and things like that. I'm going to go out there and go and shoot it anyway. Well, deep down, that pride still wasn't gone. It still wasn't. It was still there. I did have a fresher attitude, fresher approach, but that pride was still there. The motive was still corrupted for me being on site and being there. And I just started out okay at first and everything else, and then I missed a target. But there were two things going on here, and we'll get to the one, but one of them, I believe I was being tested. I was being tested by the Lord to see, have you really changed? Are you going to get angry? And I didn't. I was very calm and quiet about it. Internally, I was kicking myself a little bit, but not too bad. And, I got over it. Then, a little while later, I missed another one, and I was like, how did this happen? And that's when, the bugs started flying inside, and I really, internally was, pretty sick about that, starting to get aggravated. And then a few targets later, I missed a target twice, unexplicably, just missed. Then the next target, I missed. I had never had that happen to me, ever. And I was just started missing targets to the point to where I didn't become angry. So I feel like personally that was a victory for me passing that test. But I was like, this isn't going to work. I knew in my mind that God was doing something. Something was going on big time. Because it was almost like I had target panic, really. And I'd never really had that before or anything, but I could not shoot. I just couldn't do it. And so I packed my stuff up and I left peacefully and quietly, told everyone in the group, I said, I gotta leave. I gotta go. So something's not right here. So I was quiet for a while on my ride home, and then, I began to pray, and I talked to the Lord, and I said, I know you're trying to show me something here, but I don't know what it is. Can you tell me what you're trying to show me? I'm a little hard-headed sometimes. I'm a little slow. You got to help me out here. What's going on? And then he told me, why were you out there today? Was it to enjoy the outdoors, to really have a good time? Or were you seeking treasure? Were you being prideful? Were you trying to stroke your own pride? And I said, yeah, it was the pride. And he said, let's go home, do your chores joyfully, go mow the yard, go surprise your wife and daughter when they get home from the water park, spend a good day with them, and spend some time with me. So I come back home and I had a great prayer session, a lot. And I said, Lord, pride's a problem still. Even though my life has changed and I've gotten better, which we're all a work in progress when none of us are perfect. But I said, how do I get rid of this pride? How do I not feel bad about what just happened? How do I blow that off and just forget about it, and move on and take it as a valuable lesson? And how do I not want to get back out there again for those same motives? And he said, fast it out of yourself. So I'd never tried biblical fasting. I'm not talking diet fasting, but biblical fasting where you miss meals, but you replace those meals with prayer and quality scripture reading. Either one or the other, both combined. I think the Lord looks at your heart and your motives during that process, and He'll bless you. And the prayers become much more powerful. Biblical fasting absolutely works 100%. No lie, it does. I felt immensely closer to God. I felt my relationship status with Christ really elevate. I become much more enlightened, and that pride was just leaving me over the course of the 4 days that I did that fast. Pride left. negative, toxic pride. Now, there's a difference between that, or like, say, if I'm doing my job at work, like today, I worked on stripping and refinishing a floor. I took pride in my actions, but the motive was not to be the best or look the best. The motive was to serve the customer the best that I could, and make it as pleasant and as nice as possible for them. So you can take pride in your actions, right? And how you do things. You can take pride in your faith, but take pride in the Lord, not, oh, I'm holier than thou, or, oh, I'm better than you things. No, boast in the Lord. As I am now, I'm bragging on Jesus. I'm bragging on what he's done for me in my life, and how he's teaching me every day and truly molding me and helping me make me a better person, a better spiritual leader for my family, and better father and husband. But there's differences in that. But that toxic pride, it'll lead to nothing but stress, anger, broken relationships, depression, and you will fall. It may not be today, may not be tomorrow, may not be next week, may not be in the next 5 years, but rest assured, it says right here in the Word, we will fall each and every time. So I encourage you guys today to really take a look in the mirror, each and every one of you, and evaluate why you do what you do. Is your motives pride? Has pride corrupted your motives? Do you think you're better than someone else? Do you think that you're smarter than someone else, bigger, faster, stronger, a better writer, better speaker, better artist? The list could go on and on. But do you do what you do out of insane pride? And when things don't work out, how does that make you feel? And I just wanted to share this because it affected me directly, and I hope that this testimony about this is impactful to somebody out there and helps teach a lesson, because I absolutely learned my lesson, and I fell really hard, and I have worked to completely expel pride out of my life, because it leads to so many worse things in life, and it leads to our utter destruction. So thank you guys. Hope you all have a blessed evening and a blessed rest of your week and weekend, and God bless, and take care.